God has an address in New York City for sure. New Yorkers live out their faith in profound kingdom-building ways.
Christian formation at King's is anything we do that's geared towards what it's actually like to live out our faith and the ways our community does life together.
Everyone at King's is committed to helping students make sure their aim is true. Don't just say you're a Christian, mature your faith. Don't just go to college, come to King's.
Hi, I'm Ruth, and I'm a student at Eastern Nazarene College in Quincy, Massachusetts. Being a student here makes me feel really cared for because of all the individual connections that I get to have with my professors. I feel like they always want to see me how to thrive, not only academically, but in other areas of my life, and that just makes the student experience more meaningful here. If you're considering coming to Eastern Nazarene College, I would tell you to be ready to feel welcomed and loved by the community here. We're really a really tight family, and we cared for each other, and especially as an international student, I remember from my experience, I came from another country, and the ENC community really welcomed me with open arms and helped me in the transition from high school to college, and also from another culture to a different culture.
Most about Mrs. Horton is that she really cares about the students, and she really cares about them having amazing futures, and that's why she's helping you with the SAT. And one of the things she's really good at is not only helping you with individual answers on questions, but also going over the overarching concepts that really go with each question. And that's super helpful when you come across a question that you haven't seen before, but that you recognize from before. In the end, I was able to get National Merit finalists, and it's all thanks to Mrs. Horton.
What I love about Mrs. Horton's test prep is that she teaches us every skill, formula, and shortcut for each type of question so that we can complete it as fast as possible. She teaches it's not a logic test, it's a skill-based test. So with a lot of hard work and consistent test prep, I have managed to earn my Bright Future Scholarship. Thank you so much, Mrs. Horton.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of our online National Open. I'd like to invite Brian Cannell to present to us this morning. Brian's a parent in Region 9. He used to be in Region 10, but he took off and went to Region 9. I'm not really sure why. I was in Region 10 at that time. Maybe it had something to do with me, but I'm not going to take it personally, Brian. Brian serves as the lead pastor at York Alliance Church, and he's been serving on staff in various capacities for 20 years. He's served in the last 12 years in a lead role. He has 4 children, 2 in college, 2 in middle school and high school. Brian is going to lead us this morning in devotion and prayer. Thank you so much, Brian.
Well, hey, it is so great to be with all of you. One of the best parts about being connected with NCFCA over the years is I get to have a front row seat for the change process. What I mean by that is when I started coaching NCFCA, I had a full head of hair and a brown beard. No, I'm just kidding. I never had a full head of hair. I did have a brown beard. You all have made me gray. But of course, what I'm talking about is not my change process, but your change process. Over the course of years, we get to, as the adults who walk alongside of you, we get to see you change. The changes that all of you have. There are physical changes, of course. I remember puny kids with squeaky high voices becoming these like towering giants with deep booming voices. There are certainly emotional changes. I remember the wavering, nervous voice that gives way to confident speakers who command a room. And certainly your ability changes over time. You go from that comment at the bottom of the ballot that says something like, keep going, you got this, it's going to get better, to having a speech or a debate that is competitive at the regional level or the national level at a competition like this one. But of course, the most significant change is not any of those. It's a change that can be a little harder to see, a spiritual change. It's not always quickly evident from a distance, but conversations with you reveal a faith that is well thought out and grounded, and a character that's being shaped more and more by Jesus himself. And the question I want to try to tackle this morning is, how does that happen? So Paul, when he's writing to the Corinthian church in the book that we call 2 Corinthians or 2 Corinthians, he makes this statement. We all, with unveiled face, beholding the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from one degree of glory to the other. For this comes from the Lord who is Spirit. That's 2 Corinthians 3, verse 19. And verse 18. And it's a beautiful picture of the way that change starts to happen. What Paul's telling us is that all of us on this side of the cross and resurrection are able to look into the glory of the Lord. And as we look, we're being transformed into the image of God, which Paul calls glory. And that transformation will happen to a greater degree, one after another, as we continue to look into his glory, his beauty, his majesty. Now, some of you debaters may be asking, wait, aren't we already made in God's image? The rest of you speech kids would have thought of that eventually, so don't feel bad about it. If you had enough time, you'd have figured it out. But if we're created in the image of God, why does Paul say that we need to be transformed into his image? It's a good question, right? Because Genesis 1 and 2 tells us that we are made in the image and likeness of God. But Genesis 3 tells us that that image cracked or broke or twisted, depending on the way that you interpret the wording. There's something that happens to the image of God in us, just as it happened to the world around us. In some cases, that image seems to be broken beyond all recognition. And so two things are true at the same time. One, that everyone on earth is made in the image of God. And two, everyone on earth, from Gandhi to Hitler and everyone in between, with you and I most certainly included, have the image of God broken and twisted to such an extent that it can sometimes be unrecognizable. Whether it's the brokenness of Hitler or Gandhi, or whether it be the brokenness of you and me. And so, what do we do about the brokenness of the image of God in us? Well, Paul tells us that the answer to that question is glory. The Hebrew word for glory is the word kavod, and it has a combination of meanings from honor to strength to weight. There's a heaviness and a purity that comes from glory, which is why God told Moses in Exodus chapter 33 that no one could look at his face, his glory, and live. And yet we experience glory to a small degree or a larger degree every day. The glory that we experience is often in the form of beauty, the glory of a sunrise or a beautiful flower garden or that perfect melodic line. The glory in the smile of a really good friend or a deep conversation that you have with someone in your club. But C.S. Lewis, in his essay called The Weight of Glory, says this: these things are good images of what we really desire, but if they're mistaken for the thing itself, they turn into dumb idols. For they're not the thing itself. They're only the scent of a flower which we've not found, or the echo of a tune that we've not heard, or the news from a country that we have not yet visited. You see, these things that we experience are scents and echoes of glory, but they're not the thing itself. They remind us of Genesis 1 and 2. We remember, but they can't fully satisfy us, at least not for long, because of Genesis chapter 3. And so, with the image of God in us, broken and twisted as it may be, and the echoes of glory all around us, as limited and incomplete as those may be, Paul calls us to behold the full and complete glory of the Lord. That glory, as Hebrews chapter 1 verse 3 tells us, is found in Jesus himself. When we behold Jesus, we behold his glory. And so as we behold the glory of the Lord, as we stare deeply into the presence and the beauty of Jesus as an act that we call worship, that twisted and broken image in us starts to be transformed. The broken image is made whole by gazing at the glory of Jesus. The twisted image becomes right and pure again through the act of worship. That worship might be as part of a church on a Sunday morning, but that worship may look very different. It may be giving that speech in the best way that you possibly can. It might be debating with clear logic and bold statements, but also with grace and honor towards your opponent. That worship might be the way that you interact with one another or with friends and neighbors, the way that you perform menial tasks at your job, or the way that you give of yourself to broken and hurting people. But worship, according to Paul, beholding the glory of Jesus, changes our twisted and broken selves into God himself, into whole beings, once again fully representing the image and likeness of Jesus. So let me wrap it up this way. As you compete today, and as you go from this competition, for some of you, into regional competition and even national competition, but more importantly, as you go from here into the mundane stuff of the rest of your lives, remember that God is changing you increasingly into his image. And that doesn't happen just through singing worship songs or deeply learning the truths of the Bible. Though, as important as those things are, change, real change, happens through beholding the glory of the Lord. And as we do, we are transformed increasingly into his image. And so that's my prayer for us as we journey through this tournament, that we would behold the glory of the Lord in one another, in the beauty of our competition and all that we do. And as we behold the glory of the Lord, as we worship him with our lives, we would be increasingly changed, not just with deeper voices and greater stature, but into the likeness of Christ. So would you pray with me as we go into today's tournament? Jesus, I thank you for these students. I thank you for the way that you are changing all of us, changing them and changing us as we encounter your beauty and your glory. And God, I pray that as the competition unfolds today, they would find many opportunities to reflect your glory to the world around them. And so, God, give them grace as they compete, that they would have recall of speeches, that they would have honor for one another as they debate, that they would do all that they're doing to the best of their ability, that they would communicate with excellence for your glory, but they would also communicate with grace. And God, as we behold your glory, would you continue to transform us into the image of Christ? Thank you for all that you have done and will do. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks for joining us this morning and giving us a lovely devotion and prayer and starting off our day. Welcome back, everybody, to day 2. I hope you enjoyed yesterday and you had a great first day of competition. I'm ready myself for a second day of exciting activity. So let's go ahead and just go over a few things for today, and then we'll jump right in. We do have 5 rounds again today, so very busy as well. We're going to need everybody here and helping. Our first break announcements will be tomorrow morning, so I just want to give you that heads up. You will want to be here at announcements tomorrow morning for those first debate break announcements. So everybody just keep up your activity level and your energy, and let's get through today so we can get to tomorrow break announcements. We still need help for some of our rounds, especially. Our registration numbers are a little bit low for some of the speech rounds, so it's making it harder for us to find judges to panel. And also for our debate elimination rounds. So if you have not recruited anybody yet, well, even if you have, now is a very good time. So I've been talking long enough that by now I hope you have scanned the QR code, and that is where you can send judges. You can take them to the judge registration page, and then they can go ahead and select. You will see there are a good handful of rounds that are still available, so we would appreciate that help. We do a drawing each day during our tournaments, and I just want to say congratulations to one of our top judges. We had many of you judging lots of rounds, so thank you. Random drawing goes to Kristen Fox, and our staff drawing goes to Bree Mann. We will send you a little thank you in your email. Please look out for that. We'll send a little gift card as a token of our thank you for all the work you've done. Parents, I just want to give a little reminder about the ballots due. We do need to turn them around as quickly as possible so we can panel the next round and get that ready to go. So that due time is 30 minutes after your round ends. So set yourself an alarm, because I know you could get engrossed into what you're writing, and then all of a sudden an hour goes by and we're texting you. So if you could maybe just keep your eye and your head on that time frame, that would be very helpful if you can turn them around. I also want to point you back to this guide, very helpful. It is the Device and Tech Guide. It's found in the resource library and also on your dashboard in the resources section. This is where you can go for troubleshooting tips. It is also where you should go to be sure you're on a supported device and using a supported browser. It helps us a lot if you know that ahead of time, and not once the first speaker's in the room and ready to go, and then all of a sudden we're missing judges. We've got lots of rooms that are open during this tournament, so there's lots of judges to help when we run into those kinds of issues. So it delays the rounds. So if you can help us out if you just go through this guide and make sure that you are prepared tech-wise, okay? Just another reminder about what to do if you are having difficulty in the room. I think everybody's been hitting this button pretty well. We got some flags yesterday pretty quickly, so that's great. So needs help. If you can just flag needs help in the room, if judges, if you need assistance in the room, or students, if you lose a judge, you can click on this button in the room, okay? Or you can always reach us on the dashboard through Contact Tournament Administration for any other issues you're having. Okay, so yesterday we had lots of meet and greets, and I hope you guys all had the opportunity to go into at least a few of them. So thank you so much to our sponsors for spending the time with us on the platform. We do have 2 more sponsors that are going to be here today. So I want to encourage you again to go and meet a couple other sponsors that will be here today. New sponsors that weren't here yesterday. Patrick Henry will be here at 11 o'clock Central Time on the platform. You will find a room. And then we also have Corbin University that will be here at noon Central Time today. So please make sure that you go in and say hello to those sponsors and gather some good information. These are good universities. All right, that is my announcements for today. I hope everybody has another wonderful second day. And judges, parents, we are looking forward to seeing you in a few seconds. And students, I pray that you have a wonderful day as well. Go and compete well. Thank you.